I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Little Patuxent Review. I also grew up nearby on the other side of Western Avenue. I got my hair cut at the Bradley Barber Shop. So this is actually my first time reading in my hometown. So this is really lovely. I'm going to read a piece of lyric. Stephen asked, I was wondering if I should read poetry or nonfiction, but now that I write a lot of prose poetry and lyric essays, it's all just like kind of the same thing, right? So I'm going to read to you this lyric essay called Sea Ranch. If it skips a little bit, it's because I'm going to skip some paragraphs so that it doesn't go on quite forever, but it's called Sea Ranch. In the end, we all just wash to the sea is a line that does not exist. Rather, it is a line I married to the melody of a song by purposefully mishearing the lyrics and filling in my own. The syllabic count does not quite match the actual lyric, but it follows close enough, similar to this trail along the coast of Mendocino County. The path is not topographically perfect, more a flattened, linear variant of the slow and ever-changing coast. It is more of a guess, less than an echo. It is around Christmas, and I'm staying here in Sea Ranch for the next few days with my partner, mother, stepfather, brother, and sister-in-law. From the plane ride all through the stay on the coast, I cannot stop listening to this song and imposing the false lyric. It reappears in crowds and silences. It repeats itself until it denatures, until the false lyric is as real as the real lyric. On a walk with my brother, our first steps among the Monterey cypresses and bent grasses along the slow thundering sea, I talk about the past year. The deepening strata of depression and anxiety, cracks that let in light, the writing, the unknowing. Conveying mental health, even to a mental health professional, even to a brother who is already aware of how bad it has been, how bad it is difficult. In writing, I transform the near indescribable into surreal stories, private and personified approximations of difficult energies. With my brother, a therapist, and as decent as a human can be, it is hard to say anything at all. I bear this archive of memory and experience, this body and its consciousness, and I explain as best I can. There is no resting space, only tension in the waiting. I do not know what is happening, it just is. He turns to me and says, I'll do anything for you. Simple, devastating. I believe him at a cost. I believe him by disbelieving in myself, because in this moment it is impossible to perceive myself through such a statement, through such love. So, in the end, we all just wash to the sea is a vague-hearted locus for this sadness, a vessel and an avoidance. It is sprung from my emotional investment in geologic time, the scale of which is so annihilating it is godlike for someone who does not hold space for gods. Its impossibility is comforting, and in Sea Ranch, that impossibility is a colossal gesture that brackets me in boyish joy, while amplifying my interiority just beyond my control. The earth is remaking itself before our eyes. The song will not stop repeating. The wind from the sea does not cease. I cannot explain myself to my brother. Everything here is so big, so much itself, so saturated with its own movement and limitations, the endless ocean carving out the coast and the endless wind molding the cypresses. I stop speaking. Everything is a debt to an earlier self. This comforts me. 2/3 of the Earth's 4.5 billion years will never be accounted for. The rock and sand and oceans erased and then born into other rocks and sands and oceans, matter rearranged, never lost, but also lost. Magma emerges and hardens, is reduced to glittering minerals, pancaked by salt water that will summit again in another place. We have yet to understand fully the forces that are responsible for the continual refacing of our continental shelves, but they're there, inexorable. I do not find quite the same awe in astral times and distances, but the true similarity between rocks and stars is the human condition cannot truly understand either. The former point inward, the latter outward, and can hold each other in a pattern of creation and silence. We come from stars and end in seas, and that's a tender thought that obliterates tenderness. Every piece and particle of you represents both your irreducibility and your mundanity, and that narrative assumes an ending. It is wrong. In the end, we all just wash to the sea, and the sea disappears, becomes something else. In the end, we again wash to a sea, not the sea, a sea without name and without memory of this coast and shore of Northern California. For now, we are here. Here, the Pacific has formed a coastline of dramatic coves and cutouts, micro bays and inlets, a ragged, tough cursive scalloped by the sea, by erosion, by human development. Its newness to me is, of course, part of its power. This is my first time here. I live in Baltimore and I have only been to California a few times. I don't see my brother all that often. My wonder is neither new nor special, but it is an ecstasy. That ecstasy finds purchase in the act of looking, whether with the eyes or the neck, from my feet to the sea or to the tree line to a far cove, looking transforms my proprioception to a sugary terror. Proprioception is not the right word, or it is not the only word. It is true that there are many moments here where it is easy for me to lose the connection between my mind and where my limbs are positioned and to where my weight is flowing. The consistently stiff winds that arrive from the sea play an important role here, nudging me just enough to further complicate how I understand my physical self. Exteroception is one's relationship to the outside world as understood by the senses. This helps explain the dynamic a little more, but it is not just a physical dynamic, but a psychological one as well. Depersonalization is a type of detachment. There is something dreamlike and uncontrollable about this landscape, the wind and sea and rocks and trees all converging on this coastline. My sense of my body leaves the ground as if on a swing. In the brief moment before I rush backwards in space, my body is weightless. That feeling is in every angle here. An example, there are many red-tailed hawks, and they come very close to you. They divide the sky in sinuous technique. They look through and past you, and they also smell you, as they are one of the few species of birds with a discernible sense of smell. They are somehow able to flatten your humanness, make you small in the neck and the heart. Take the small panic of a bee near your face and multiply it by talon and beak. It is thrilling. Another example, there are 50-foot dead drops gently hidden by succulents and molehills, oceanic base soft and violent, and with bursts of spray when break meets the rock. These spatial relationships are destabilizing. Vertigo is too compact of a word to describe the sense that, when I shift my gaze from the path to the kaleidoscopic cloud fronts, to the surf and spray, to a pile of tree-sized driftwood 4 stories below my feet, I leave myself behind. 1 second. All 6 of us are taking our first walk together along the Sea Range path. I am standing on a narrow spur that reaches far into the sea, looking straight ahead into the infinity. Down to my left is a deep recess, a cove in miniature with a pile of huge pieces of driftwood covering the beach. The path to the end of the spur is narrow, but not precarious. But the wind is strong enough, the differing scales of geology and ocean and self so confused, that I walk in a low stoop. I keep the center of gravity close to the earth and feel a little less on edge of catastrophe. My face is very close to the ground, close to the fists of thistly, succulent-like flowers that stay low all their lives. Lynn calls over my shoulder, and as I turn, a cormorant arcs just over my head and heads straight down into the cove. The cormorant is gray with a touch of red, and it bobs on the surf without effort. In a blink, it disappears into the salty turbulence, looking for fish. It reappears a dozen feet away from where it began, and over, the small creature with small bones dips in and out of this picket of violent ebbs and flows. Corvus marinus, sea raven. How is this possible? How is this happening below me? My heart thrums as if it were a deep bruise, and this scene pushes on that bruise like the heels of a palm. Satisfying, painful. I fall to my knees, transfixed with this scene in a state of total awe. The word awe is faintly rooted into the word Greek akos, meaning pain or distress. Those actions below me, the push and pull of the sea, the cormorant diving in and out of existence, are syncopated and resonant to the brink of pain, and all other thoughts are driven from me. Stooped, I finally shuffle back along the spur to the mainland, where I find my family standing over a pile of purple anemones. The creatures are face down, hollowed out. They were dropped here by seagulls who subsequently consumed the bodies, and the pile is neat, deliberate, an unthinking location of ritualistic and instinctual feast. We stand over the pile of the dead for what feels like a long time, unwilling to leave. When we do, Lynn takes one, but when we get close to the house, they turn around and return it to the pile with the others. There is a picture of me on my knees, taken by the scene of the cormorant and the surf. It is a vertical picture. I am looking to the viewer's left, and it is difficult, even now, to look at. Since Christmas will be spent at Sea Ranch, I suggest we bring a small pine tree with us. We find one that is a foot tall, and we place it on the kitchen counter, close to the dining room table. On Christmas Eve, after dinner, someone suggests we decorate the tree. My mom, brother, and I have a little tradition where my brother lifts me up to place the dove and heart, peace and love, atop the tree. We are older and heavier, and so the act grows clumsier each year. Someone has a small bulb-like decoration. Expectation fills the room, and everything about this feels wrong, awkward, Forced. Alex lifts me, straining, and I struggle to put the decoration on top, fumbling. It is not working, and the bulb eventually falls to the ground and breaks. I do my best to hide how upset I am. This dumb and lovely ritual, forced and ending in a broken ornament. My interiority threatens to overtake me. Breathe. Keep the sea inland. Do not let it find the ocean. It won't know itself. They laugh, we clean up the mess, and I take a few minutes to myself in the bedroom. On our last walk along the Sea Ranch path, Lynn and I come to a ledge not far from the house. It juts out far enough so that when I face Lynn, you can see the cliffs and beaches over their right shoulder, the breaking ocean to their left. The sky is clear, again, and the wind is still insisting, and we agree this is an appropriate space for art. The small video I take is bisected by a tremendous slant of solar glare, a tractor beam, a spotlight, a bridge to the heavens. The grass and rocks in the foreground are deeply backlit along with Lynn and their white draped top, billowing slightly with wind and gesture. The small improvisational dance begins, patient in intention and shape and line, letting sequences build and dissemble without force. The waves in the background continue their breaking, which creates a pulse indifferent to this little dance, but nonetheless, it is here, insisting that Lynn's gestures are a translation of surf and sky into a single body. I rewatch this video and think of dance as daring the infinity to occupy bodies, if only briefly. I do not read this improvisation as reverential or even referential. Lynn is not working through mimicry. Weight shifts through the center line, escapes from a hand, and the moment is gone forever despite the video. Here in this essay, the dancing body is as difficult to translate as my own. How to convey on the page the language of the body, how to speak of the body such that it can be understood without looking at it. Just behind Lynn, you can see the sediment layers of the nearest cliff, and they are sweeping upward in a 45-degree angle from where the shore meets the base of the cliff. This is gesture beyond the idea of gesture, as slow and ancient as it is violent, like exposed ribs from the chest of an animal forever remaking itself. Lynn stoops low to the ground several times, the beginning or the end of a spiraling sequence, a briefly vertical counterpoint to the ledge and the water. It ends without pretense. Lynn finishes their thought and walks off screen. A small minute of small gestures is thrown in relief against a massively dramatic shore, and the dictions of flesh and rock and sea find a voice together. Watching this video brings me back to Sea Ranch, but it is not elegiac memory. It is not grief. Lynn's small dance offers a return without loss.